welcome. This is a Public Works podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman, and today we got a real treat for you. Her name is Elia Twigg, and she is the CEO of Lantic Solutions. Elia, say what's up to everybody.
Hey everybody, how's everyone doing?
All right, Elliot. So this will be a different episode, but a fun episode. We're going to talk about your Jennings Randolph Scholarship excursion extravaganza. Um, we'll dive into that in a little bit, but I want people to know who you are and kind of get some context. So, we're looking at Elia Twigg, Lantic Solutions. Give us your career path, I guess, let's do it. Let's go from high school all the way up until today, and then we'll go deeper.
Yeah, high school was when I decided civil engineering was going to be my career path. So I decided 11th grade drafting class. I thought I wanted to do architecture. I just loved doing the house plans that we were doing in that class, and thought I'd be an architect. And so then my mom and I went to the Savannah School of Art and Design to go check out the school. And I thought the first impression I had was, oh my God, this is so not my thing. So I went back to
Why was that?
Because it was a very creative, just very artsy environment, and that just wasn't my environment. So
you need spreadsheets.
Exactly.
Cells, and rows and columns.
So I went back. I remember talking to my drafting teacher, Mr. Andrews, and he said, well, have you ever thought about civil engineering? And I was like, I didn't even know what that was. And this, of course, was a time internet wasn't like what it is now. It wasn't like we could just go and look it up. So he just kind of explained a little bit. I was able to go to the library and research it a little bit myself. But to me, the word engineer was always like no, there's absolutely no way I'm going to be an engineer, because my dad was an engineer and we always thought of him as being like the nerd, the pocket protector type of engineer. And that was the impression that we always had growing up. So anyways, I after looking at it, I'm like, this is exactly what I need to be doing. So that's what I did. When I started applying for the colleges, the first school I went to go see was FIT, which is here in my town, Melbourne, Florida. And the first thing they showed us was a concrete canoe project. So it's literally a canoe made out of concrete, but it's a full engineering project. And that was the coolest thing I had ever seen. And I thought, this is what I need to be doing. So I went to see another school, University of Miami, and then went to University of Florida. And those other two schools, I asked them, do you guys have the concrete canoe program here? It's through American Society of Civil Engineers. It's a huge program. They do a couple of the big projects of the canoe and the steel bridge were the two big projects they did. And then you go to the conference and there were other projects as well, but the canoe was the one that I did. So when I applied to UF, I got in. I applied directly to the College of Engineering. I got a scholarship program to be part of the Step Up program, which was a program that was designed to help minority engineering students graduate with an engineering degree. So I joined that. Well, I got accepted to that, and I have a twin sister, and she was wanting to do business, and she was going to UF to do business. And she saw I was accepted to this program, so then she wanted to do it. And so then she applied, and she got accepted. So the two of us went and did this Step Up program, and it was one of the best things that we could have ever done. It was a super intense program over the summer. The second summer of it was right before college, the fall semester. So summer B, I think it was. Super intense, but it was intended for us to get kind of the pre-classes before we went into the fall semester. So we were prepared going into these big classes. We had mentors, we had study halls, and this is where I learned that ask for help even when you think you don't need it. That was probably the key thing I learned in that program, because once we started our actual classes, engineering classes and even just regular classes, all the professors knew who we were because we were always going to the office hours to ask for help. And so that was something that she and I always did. But that was kind of that lesson that we learned from that program. I loved it so much the next year I became a mentor for it. So I was a mentor like / tutor. And then when the dean who started the program retired, he asked for my sister and me to speak at his retirement party. So that was really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we we were really engaged with the programs at the ASCE, and I was with the concrete canoe. She did the steel bridge, and it was awesome. We had national competitions and everything that we did with that, so it was really cool. Yeah, and then because we were identical twins. It was the first year when we graduated with the engineering degree. It was the first year that the College of Engineering had its own separate graduation from like the rest of the university. So, but because the College of Engineering was so big, they had to split it to 2 ceremonies. So we were like the face of the College of Engineering in that time. 2 of us representing the one. So they had us in the magazine, the UF Engineering magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the 2 of us, we were facing each other. So like it was kind of like our profiles. And because we're identical twins, it looked like the same, the same person. I mean, you could see the differences, but we were basically representing like the one College of Engineering, but having the 2 ceremonies for this
I gotta look
graduation.
That up.
It was really, I could send you a picture of that. But we had a friend of ours who's a graphic designer put that together, because then they had features in that magazine, some other features for us, and she kind of put it all together into one graphic. So it was cool.
I'm sure your parents were proud. Probably
happy. Oh yeah, it was really cool. Very cool. So we spoke at our graduation as well.
Okay.
So we had lots of little nuggets.
From the scholarship to this, and like
I know,
fast track to greatness. Hot dog.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. But so after that, subdivisions was my thing. I wanted to design a subdivision. I wanted
How
to
boring is that?
No, I wanted to like look up from a plane and see like a subdivision that I designed. And I even had this vision that like, oh, I could have like a neighborhood with like my initials or something and just kind of put it together that way. And then I could see it from like the airplane. Of course, that didn't happen. I mean,
no, but
I don't think developers really wanted an Elia subdivision with the street names, or E or something. But
I think also,
but no, that was actually really what I wanted to do. I wanted to design subdivisions. So coming out of college, that's what I did, and I did that for 3 years, and then it was kind of a tough time for me there. There was just just some stresses in the, I don't know. It was just a little bit of a stressful project or job. And so then so I ended up going to do an inspection, and somebody from a city like an inspector said, hey, so-and-so is getting promoted and her position's going to be open. And that was like the first thing that made me think, oh, I should look into this.
Yeah.
So I researched it. I found somebody I would consider like a mentor, contacted her because she just knew everything and everybody and all this. And so she did tell me though that position would have required an engineer, like a licensed engineer. I wasn't licensed at the time. But she's like, my husband works for this other city, so you should see that he's got some openings. So that's what I did. I applied there, and I was in my mid-ish 20s. I got the job going to manage, had 27 people, going from no management at all to managing 27 people.
Yeah.
But it was a really eye-opening experience, but at the same time, it was like really rewarding. We were 1,000 permits, more than 1,000 permits behind. And that was kind of like the job, like the primary job. We need to get back on course and get these permits like issued. So I just remember going into, this was like maybe in the first couple weeks of me working. I'm like, well, how far back are we? How far behind are we? And none of the team knew. And I could just see that there was this huge pile of permits sitting on a desk. And I was like, well, how many are in that pile? And they're like, oh, I don't know. So I just said, okay. I pulled out the chair and I just started counting. And they're looking at me like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, how do we know what our problem is if we don't even know what our problem is? So
Right.
I started counting the permits and saw that we had over 1,000 permits.
Out of 1,000 permits.
At
And
over
these are
1,000.
people putting in permits to say, hey, I need to build this or want to
Yeah.
do that. Wow.
So then builders were, really upset, obviously, because they're trying to, these were permits for driveway culverts, basically driveway for their residential property. And they had to put a culvert in, because we had open drainage type system in that city. So, and so then what we started doing is, after we found out how many permits we were behind, started kind of just looking at, well, what are some options that we have to get ourselves back on track? Hired some temp help, did some just changes in the processes, and we got ourselves back on track. But that was, I'm 5'1", in my mid-20s, going ahead of these builders that were like middle-aged white male. That was basically the predominant, builder that I was facing.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
And I had these meetings. I started the meetings. I would start doing them, like, I think I had them at quarterly meetings with the builders. And I was, in front of all these builders saying, this is our problem and this is what we're doing to fix it. And of course, the builders were upset and everything. I mean, but then as they saw that things were starting to change, and they saw we were doing what we said we were going to do. And, and of course there was a lot of times where we're like, okay, this isn't working, we need to change this. But the communication was always there with the builders. So we turned it around, and then we were no longer behind. But
Wow.
it took a good probably 8 months.
Wow.
To get to, because we were getting a lot of permits still coming in, plus all the permits that were behind. So
wow.
Yeah.
So you get on, and then what was the next steps? I think
after that,
go ahead.
Yeah, after that I became operations manager. So I worked for the city for 10 years, and I was operations manager for quite some time. I mean, I think I had like 75 people working for me then at that time. And then I went to manage big projects for our city, and then like big capital projects. Did that for like 6 months, and then the position for the director opened up, and I raised my hand really big, really high, to say I want to do that. And so then I became the public works director. And we used to have a director roundtable. Well, we still do, in Florida, and then we've also gone on to the international one at PWX. And I was the youngest female director at that time, so that was kind of a cool cool thing. But I loved it. That job was really awesome. I really enjoyed that. So I worked for that city for 10 years, and then went on to do work with CEI, doing construction engineering and inspection for heavy type construction projects. For mostly our clients were DOT and municipalities. And then I told my boss I was just tired of dealing with these huge projects. And I remember telling him, I'm like, I don't even know what this means for me in this job at all, but I can't manage projects anymore. I'm like tired of it. I'm just done with it. Yeah. Like, if that means that this is my last day here, I'm totally fine with that. Okay. But this is like where I am right now. So we made like kind of like a plan, and I was doing a lot more of like the overhead. I did some training for the company, some leadership type training, some training for emergency response, because we had some contracts with that. A lot of proposals. So I was kind of doing more overhead type of work. And I just felt like I needed to do something different. And that's when I started my business. So I was
Yeah.
kind of doing that on the side, helping my sister with her drainage projects that she had. And then she was training me with everything that she knew how to do with that. And I mean, she had been doing that for several years already. So, and I was helping her. And then I just started getting my own contracts. And as soon as I started my own contracts, it just started coming one after another. And I ended up having to quit my job so that I could do that full time.
Wow.
So I've been doing this full time since 2022.
Look at you, from being the superstar in college and the face of the face of the college.
That was I think it was, I mean, you know, it was we were like the only twins, probably female twins, if anything, that have ever been through that college. Okay. So I think there was like, you know,
yeah,
just because we were twins. I mean, it wasn't
like, really. It's like the one black person at the company, they got to make sure to put them on the flyer and say, we're diverse.
Yeah.
All right. No, that's cool. So fast forward, you're part of APWA.
Yes.
You know, you're probably going to some of the association meetings. You're probably meeting the people. Maybe you go to a PWX or not. You know, you leave the formal side of the industry, or maybe you still are on the formal side of the industry. You hear about the Jennings Randolph Scholarship. Like, how did you hear about it? And then also, I guess, talk to those who are, whether they're private or on the agency side, why they should join an association in the first place.
Yeah. Associations to me have always been my go-to. First, just to meet people. Like if you meet people that have common interests, to me, that is like the key thing. So I think it is so important to join something that you like doing, that you're going to meet people that also like doing that. So that's definitely major advice to do. But, you know, it started with ASCE from back in my college years. I stayed with ASCE. I was super engaged with ASCE. When I went to work for the city, my boss at the time, he encouraged me to join APWA. So then I joined APWA it was in 2005 I joined. And I was never actively engaged, like being a leader or anything, until like probably, I don't know. Actually, I think I started maybe 5 years or so after me being a PWA member. But I was one of the first like groups to do the Emerging Leaders program, but this was before the program that it is now. So I was like,
leader also. Look at you.
Well,
man. You've been winning all your life. Like, come on.
Well, this was before the program that it is now. So it was like 2 years before they created the program that it is. But you know, my boss and the deputy city manager were super involved with APWA, and she was the one that kind of started the program. So like, that's how I got involved. So then I became a member, like the emerging leader. It was basically just at the conference. So they had a few classes that were like specific to us. And then after that, we were, you know, they changed the program, but she was the one that spearheaded that whole thing. And she's the one that did it forever until just in the recent like 2 years where things have changed with the teachers. And we've now got 2 groups with the emerging leaders. So definitely another program that's really amazing. Some amazing people have come out of that program and becoming awesome leaders within APWA and within their organizations for sure. So another great program. But with with the Jennings Randolph, I found that out because I was at a PWX. At the time, it was called the Expo, I think, or I don't know, whatever. It was before the name of PWX. Yeah. And we really became good friends with the Australian group that came. And I remember talking to the guy that was like the leader of that group. And he just told me about the Jennings Randolph. And I was like, you mean I could get money to go somewhere? Yeah, I'm doing that. So yeah, that was when I was public works director. I had just become the public works director and went to the conference and then found out about this, applied for it right away, and then was able and then got accepted. Won it. And then that next year is when I went to Australia for my my study tour. So
So
that was in 2013 that I went to Australia. So my whole thing was I was really focused on getting the name of Public Works out there. I talked to, talking to friends, talking to family. No one knew what Public Works was. And I mean, it's still kind of that way, So that was my thing. I wanted that outreach. I wanted to see and that was my whole premise of my study tours. Well, how do people in Australia tell people, who maintains the
right,
roads and who does
right,
the garbage pickup or whatever. I mean, any of those tasks and jobs that the public works employees would typically do. That's what my thing was. Well, how do people know who they are, and if there's a problem, who do they call? And is it more known over there who these people are? I mean, the public works departments are generally kind of not secret, but it's just like behind the scenes. People don't really know until there's a problem, So in that year that I became director, that was my thing. I created, like with our PIO, we made a video, it was like a 10-minute video that basically said, this is, imagine public works, imagine life without public works. So it was like this huge, like emergency, like all these things going
yeah,
on in the video. And then it was like, this is what we do. This is our job.
yeah,
So we had, a lot of our public works employees, as part of the video and showing what they did. So that was we had to give a council presentation every year. And that was my council presentation, was sharing this video. And I
yeah.
remember sharing it with my family and my brother. We're not like super close, but with my brother, he saw the video. He's like, oh, I didn't even know what you did, but now I do.
I love that. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I mean, even family,
yeah,
but that was my thing. Like, I really wanted to get the word out there, and that's what we did. So we made that video, and then that was my goal, is to kind of get that word out there.
yeah.
And I was doing presentations all around, just basic, like, where do you get your water? Have you ever thought about what happens, when you turn on your faucet? Where's that water coming from? Or, turning, the traffic signals, who maintains that? How, if there's a stop sign that's down, who's going to fix the stop sign? So going into like kids' school, like the schools, and just doing these little presentations to kind of get the word out. And
Sure.
then going to Australia. So yeah, so with
Yeah.
Australia, that was the whole
Yeah.
premise of my Jennings Randolph Fellowship.
So tons of questions. We'll just start. You get accepted or you win it because you win everything you put in for.
Not really, but
What goes through your mind? You're like, hey, I'm going to Australia. It's a expense paid for trip. I have to produce something from it. I have to have some type of takeaways. Is there like an imposter syndrome? Because you said it was your first year of being a public works director, and now you get to go, do X, Y, Z overseas. Yeah, I guess talk us through the pre-gaming before you set foot on mainland Australia.
Yeah. Well, for me, travel has always been a big thing. I just love going places. So that was like, wow, I could go to Australia for a work thing. That sounds cool. So then when I applied for it, I really truly wanted to know, well, how do people know what public works is over there, and how to, so that was really like, what could we learn from that? That was my thing. So it wasn't an all expense paid, because it was expensive, but it was most expense. But my chapter and my branch for APWA did help a little bit as well, give me a little bit of money towards that trip. But for me, I didn't care. If I had to pay half of it, that was fine with me, because I just thought the opportunity was super awesome. But the daunting part of it was, okay, so I've got this accepted, so now I need to do a study tour. Australia's huge. What am I going to do? So, right. I knew the direction of what I wanted to do, but I didn't know like where I was going to go, who I was going to meet, and that kind of stuff. So we are water people. And my husband's like, well, if you're going to Australia, I'm going to go to Australia.
Okay.
So
as you should, yeah.
So then our focus was, okay, where could he serve while I'm while I'm working and meeting
Priorities,
with
right?
people.
Come
Yeah.
on.
So Sydney was the study tour location,
Okay.
and we love water, so, and boats. So my thought was, okay, if we're going to Sydney, I need to find agencies that are by the water, so I could take a ferry to get there. And because, you know, we didn't have a car, we weren't renting a car or anything. So that's how I picked the agencies. And I just started looking at, okay, well, what's along the river, you know, what cities or what agencies, and how are they even split up? Because that was another big learning curve of how their municipalities are even like split up. And it
Yeah,
was
I'm sure you probably
very
have
different.
job
I
titles
mean,
and who sits in what
yeah.
types of offices and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was challenging. And thankfully, you know, I did have access to like try and find these things, you know, online, and it was still kind of challenging. I mean, it was 2013, but so some of the municipalities weren't as great, like of a presence online, but but I was able to find the agencies, and it literally was, what's along the river, what ferries can I take to get there. That
Yeah.
was how I found them. But I was able to meet with Manley, which is the town that we stayed in, Bondi Beach, the municipality that which is Waverly Council.
Oh, that's the one with that
Bondi Beach is where
pool.
that
Yeah.
they have like
It's the
they had like a video, or not a video, but oh, what is it? The lifeguard. It was something with the lifeguards there that was like it was like a big deal.
okay.
Bondi Beach. It's like a, you know, big. It's a big beach, you know,
Yeah.
surf beach and
I've
everything.
seen the name Bondi Beach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Sorry, not to.
Yep.
Didn't you go during like their PWX or their big
Yes.
event?
Hmm.
Talk about that and why strategically you went during that event.
Well, that was part of the tour, is to go to their conference and
Okay.
speak at their conference.
Okay.
So that's how the timeline was created with going in that time frame. So it was August of 2013, and so that's how the timeline came. But it was a struggle for me to know, well, do I do my study tour before or after the conference? And I'm so glad, which this would be good advice for anyone that is doing the same thing, is do the conference first and then the study tour. Because I met a key person at this conference, and he introduced me to, basically, he knew everybody that I was going to be meeting with, and he basically introduced me to everyone that was there at the conference. He was able to introduce me to all of them. So it was
Perfect.
super awesome. Yeah, perfect. So I already
Yeah.
got to meet them before I met them the following week.
Okay.
But yeah, so I presented at the conference
On what?
and on public works outreach.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like that
The video
premise.
you did
Yeah,
locally.
the video. Yeah, so I didn't show the whole video because it's 10 minutes, but I showed, you know, parts of that, and then just it was kind of the premise of like, well, how do people, you know who you are? And it's like, when you turn on the water, you know, who builds the sidewalk, who builds this, you know, and it was just kind of that type of a presentation. So it was more of like, how do you communicate this with your communities? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was my presentation there.
Okay.
But then the study tour was after that, and so I did the study tour for about a week.
So
And
let's walk through a day in the life of the study tour, Elia. You know, you wake up, your husband's like, I'm surfing.
yeah,
Have fun.
exactly.
There's some coffee in the pot. You get on your ferry, you go to whether it's Bondi Beach, Manley. Then what? You show up and say, "Hey, I'm looking for so and so."
Yeah, I had the meetings. Everything was prearranged. So, and most of it was how, like, it was basically asking those questions. How do people know who you are? What kinds of interesting projects or what kinds of things do you do for community outreach and that kind of, do you do events, that kind of stuff. And
Sure.
that was what was amazing. just asking those questions, you know, and see how they do things in their agencies was amazing.
Yeah.
One of the things, so I had a lot of like takeaways that I like literally was able to implement immediately from when I got home with my public works department. So
We'll get into, not to cut you off and
yeah,
stuff. We'll
okay,
definitely get into those takeaways. I kind of want to just go back to the interactions. They know you're
yeah,
coming. You guys got a set meeting going.
hmm,
They're like, what are they asking you? You know, what we'll get into what you learned from them, but what are some of the things that, you know, like let's say the Bondi Beach director is asking of a Elia? You know, does he know the scope of the city that you came from? Do they know like what your
yeah.
public works director title means? Like, what are some of those little nuances and intricacies that might be missed in translation, even same language, but still in translation of that interaction?
Yeah, we had those discussions as well, but I think some of that came ahead because when I was, I mean, just looking for the agencies was already a task in itself. Finding out how these agencies were like even how, like what their responsibilities were and that kind of thing, that was already hard. And then finding, as soon as I found the people that I was going to be meeting with, there were some email exchanges ahead. So they knew my purpose, they knew what I was
Gotcha.
going for. You
Gotcha.
know,
Okay.
I was able to like kind of do the introduction of like what I was looking for,
Okay.
you know, what I was planning to do and that kind of
So
stuff.
it's not
So
like a cold outreach
it was
almost.
not a cold, yeah, it
Okay.
was cold outreach in the very beginning, but as soon as I had my person that I
Yeah.
was going to be meeting with, then we had email exchanges, you know,
Okay.
ahead of me coming.
Gotcha.
So, but then it was like a super warm introduction when I
Yeah.
got to the conference because that guy that I met at the conference ended up being like the best person I could have ever met. He introduced me to all of these people, and so there was like that warm introduction already, and then he was a surfer,
Okay.
so it's it's my like he lived in the Bondi Beach area.
Okay.
So the day that I was visiting the town that had Bondi Beach as part of the you know, responsibility, um he picked up my husband from the
Oh,
ferry station.
this guy.
They
Yeah.
go out surfing all, you know, the rest of the
Yeah.
afternoon. They're out surfing.
I'm sure your
My
husband's loving
husband's
it.
being, oh yeah, he's being wined and dined by these people because they brought him back. They made this huge meal, bottle of wine, all this stuff, you know, while I'm sitting in a council meeting.
Yeah.
But that was what I wanted to do, you know.
Yeah.
I wanted to see a council meeting while I was there as well. But yeah, so while I was meeting with the guy, I mean, most of these meetings were like an all day meeting, you
Oh,
know. So
okay.
yeah, it was an organized, like pre-organized, whether it was a full day or half day, and it was like show me everything, show me what you have in your city, show me like what
Are
you
you like
guys
hopping in
do.
cars with them? You going on walks?
Yeah,
You going to
yeah,
lunch? Like,
both
okay.
cars, like the Waverly Council, that one, yeah, we drove around all around basically
Wow.
Sydney, you know, because the Waverly is part of the actual Sydney town with Bondi Beach and everything. But
Okay.
yeah, so we were driving around, and then I organized that one that day because the council meeting was that day. So then after I went to the council meeting,
What was that
um
like? Was it 6 hours and people irate?
no, it was it didn't feel different from what our normal council meetings were,
Really?
but it was a smaller, I mean, it was a smaller agency, so that was kind of a smaller group, you know. But one thing I noticed is they had a lot more council members, and I
Oh,
thought that that was really strange.
like how many more?
It was like 9 to 12
Oh,
or something.
okay.
Yeah, I to me I felt like that was like a lot. Can you
Yeah.
imagine having to like please that many people, you know?
Oof. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
the one thing that was interesting also with that, I mean, the council meeting was, there was nothing special about it. It was just kind of like a typical council meeting, just with more people on the dais, just, you know, as a council member, or commissioner, or whatever. But there was one guy that used to come to our council meetings, every council meeting at the city that I was at, And at this meeting, there was a guy that looked exactly like him.
That's him.
I remember getting
They're
pictures
everywhere.
and
Yeah.
then sending that off to my people, like, look who else is at this meeting.
Yeah. Like, is Jimmy out here also? Like, come on.
Yeah, it was real. That was really strange, but yeah. So that was cool. I mean, like I said, those meetings were generally a half a day to a full day of just touring their city or just in their building, municipal building, and just meeting with different people. I mean, they really embraced it very well. Like,
That's
I
good.
told them initially, the purpose of my visit, what
Yeah.
exactly I was trying to accomplish, all of these things. And they really, the people I met with could not have been like better people. I mean, they were really
Yeah.
great.
I know. I was hoping they didn't treat it like a burden. Like, oh, we got some PR
No.
person come in. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it wasn't.
That's cool.
And that's what made it all the better too. I mean, I think generally if you're getting a cold call or cold, email from someone saying, hey, I'm from whatever, country, and I've got
Yeah.
this fellowship, I mean, it took a while for me to get these meetings figured out, but I also had a couple of connections through that friend that I met in Australia, like at the one that told me about, no, not him, the one that told me about the fellowship. I met him at at one of the conferences,
Okay.
And then he's the one that encouraged me to apply for it. So he was somehow like somewhat engaged with these people as well. So he helped guide me of who to contact, and that, so it wasn't like cold completely calling, but which I would encourage, at least having somebody some sort of a point of contact. And I think all the Jennings Randolph Fellowship people would have some sort of a point of contact with those countries. So
yeah, I think that's how it looked like. That's how it worked.
Yeah.
What were some of the head scratching moments? Again, not getting into the takeaways, but some of the things you're like, wow, this is how you guys operate here, or like, like, oh, you haven't solved for XYZ yet, maybe try this.
I don't really remember having so much of that, because I think I was more focused on what they did instead of like, I mean, I'm sure, like, it was in 2013, so I'm sure that there were definitely those times that like we were sharing information where they maybe would have had some more from me, I guess. But I think that was probably more of like the outreach part, like maybe focusing a little bit more on that outreach.
Yeah.
Because they were, it was similar in the sense that like people didn't like know public works, like you would expect them to or whatever. I mean, it was kind of similar.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, takeaways. Run us through. You said there's some stuff you implemented right away.
Right away.
Like, what are some of those things that just hit you in the face? Like, oh, we could do that in 10 minutes back home.
Yeah. So we had in Manning, that I think it was Manning, the town. I met with I guess it would be like their public works director equivalent, and we talked about events. Okay. So they were really, really big with the environment over there, and one of the things they did was they had water stations at their events. So they did not give out water bottles. They didn't give out like a plastic water bottle, like at events where there would be food or drinks, available. They had all these water stations around. And that was one of the things that the agency was really keen on too, is building these water stations in like along their beaches and stuff, so that people would have places to fill up their water bottles. So I thought, man, that, for Public Works Day, we were going to be doing Public Works Day, which was going to be the following May, and we were going to start our planning meetings January. So, I'm like, that's what we need to do for our Public Works Day. We're going to give out a water bottle that has our city logo on it, and give those out, and then people could go to our water stations and fill up their water bottles, instead of giving out water bottles like like just a regular plastic water bottle.
Yeah.
Instead of giving that out, we had water stations. So I thought that was a really cool thing. We had some really good feedback from doing
Cool.
that. Something simple, very
Yeah.
simple,
Yeah.
but it was very effective. And
Okay.
and then people had a takeaway. They had a water, like as they came to our event, you get a little baggie of like stuff, trinkets or whatever, and a water bottle was in there.
Yeah.
And you could fill it, like if you didn't have water with you, you could fill it up at the water stations,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool thing for our Public Works Day. That was a big takeaway.
Kind of shook things up a little bit because they get a cool takeaway instead of just a water bottle.
Yeah.
For the public perception, what were they doing to solve for? I mean, of course, I got the Public Works podcast, but was there some type of publication or some type of formal way that they said, hey, we pave your roads. Hey, we make sure your wastewater leaves your house. It gets you fresh water.
In this case, they had pamphlets because this was the town that was right by the beach, and they were really big on waste, like making sure that you're throwing away in garbage cans and not throwing, littering and that kind of stuff. And they had all of these pamphlets. I wish I still had copies of it, but I remember it like specifically there was like a litter bug on the pamphlet. And that was like what they used as like their little symbol is a litter bug.
Yeah.
And it was I thought it was really effective, and those were like things that they would give out to their, communities or whatever for making sure that they're throwing away in garbage and not like on the beaches or on the streets or whatever. So, and it was a very clean city. So I don't know if it was a result of this type of, because it was a big deal. Like they had this stuff everywhere. They had signs in places, and then they had these little pamphlets. So it was a big deal for them for sure.
What did they have any anecdotes for reaching the younger generation or the kids about like any type of public works?
Yeah, I mean, maybe in that regard, just the symbol of like a litter bug, I think that was kind of a cute, it was a cute cartoon for sure. Trying to think of the other agencies.
Like, were they doing school stuff? Do they do touch a truck events like we do out here?
Well, that one event that I was telling you about, that was one that was on the beach, and they had, it wasn't like a touch a truck type of event, but I think it was like a public awareness, and it was talking about like recycling and using the garbage cans and that kind of stuff. Like, so it was an event for that, keeping the beaches clean.
Sure. Is the stigma, or not stigma, but kind of the hierarchy, like police, fire, EMT, first responders, and then like others, and then public works out, is it kind of the same? Like, does the public works still doesn't get that first responder tag, so to say?
Yeah,
Are they pushing?
I would say,
okay.
Yeah, I would say no. But they were organized differently. Like their streets, it was kind of like a DOT, but at a bigger level. So they didn't always have the streets to maintain. Like sometimes it was like, I forget what the agency was, but it was more of like a bigger entity that would like do street maintenance. But it also was Sydney too, so that could be part of it as well.
Gotcha.
So some of the responsibilities weren't necessarily the same, from that regard. But I did meet with that agency. They had to close the Sydney Bridge a few years prior to when I got there. I have no idea how I met with these people, like how I got in touch with them. That was one of those things like, wow, this was super random, but it was amazing.
Just Elia being Elia.
I met with the PIO lady that was responsible for all of the outreach for closing the bridge. I mean, imagine closing a bridge that has tons of traffic. I mean, I don't know offhand how many cars now, but at that time it was a ton of traffic. And then the project manager that did the project.
Yeah.
I met with both of them. They were like, we had a joint meeting, and they were telling me about the whole process of how they shut down, what their public outreach was, because that was my big thing, and then how they shut it down, and the maintenance work that they had to do on the bridge. But it was that takeaway from that one was they had the way that they did their outreach and publication of like reaching out to the community to show that that road was going to be closed. We had at a much tinier scale a road closure because we had to close a road down. We were realigning the road, so it required us to close down a portion of this road. So when I got back, that was like literally within, I don't know, a month or 2 months after me coming back.
Yeah.
The stuff that I learned with how they did their public outreach,
yeah,
fully was like, we have to copy that, and did that with our agency. So just the way that they reached out to their public and the different methods that they did that. I mean, obviously this is an international type of thing because the Sydney Bridge, like there's people coming in from out of the country coming to visit, and that was something that was like a big deal, like for everybody to know about it.
Yeah.
So I learned how they did that outreach, and then I implemented that for us at a much tinier scale.
Sure, but the concept still work.
The concept still was there. Yeah. So that was
what was it like
takeaway.
I mean, you kind of know how it is. You go to a conference or you have a big event, come back all fired up, and everybody was like, what's up with Elia? Why is she so on fire? Like, tell her to relax. Like, was it hard to like, kind of piecemeal out your ideas and say, hey guys, like I got another idea for this. Don't want to put too much on your plate. Like,
no, it definitely wasn't. Because it was kind of like people just knew my energy already. Okay. They knew what to expect. And when I came back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned this cool thing. We need to do this. And everyone's like, oh, that sounds awesome. And then the ideas start, coming because I had a really amazing team of managers, when I was in public works. So we totally were able to tell each other, no, that's a terrible idea, or no, that's a great idea, or, oh, we should add to this or do that, So there was a lot of autonomy in the group, and then a lot of ability to like tell it like it is, I mean, that's to me what makes a strong team. If you could tell your boss, your idea is terrible, let's do this instead, culture, and there's no like, hurt feelings. It's just like, what are we going to do to make it better? And so I did have a really awesome team, and people got it. As soon as I came back with these ideas, they're like, yeah, let's do that, or let's, and then they would enhance it and make it even better, or make it work for our agency. So
yeah. Let's say we had to force you and your husband to go back, and he has to serve, but you have to go do the public works route again. What would you do differently?
I would go to a different city.
Really? Okay.
I mean, it was super awesome. I think the best approach was definitely going to the conference ahead.
Okay.
That to me would be like any advice for somebody doing this type of Jennings Randolph, because I think that is part of it. I think you're always presenting at their conference or attending their conference.
Yeah.
But do that first. So that would be definitely, and I'm glad it just was by accident that I did that, and the way the timing worked out. So I'm glad it worked out that way. For sure. Yeah.
One thing I learned in my travels is that a lot of the big cities are kind of just mirror each other, like Paris, France, let's say Chicago, Sydney, Tokyo, Cairo. They kind of all start to mimic each other because of the scale. Like you kind of have to, do things a certain way to make it function, but you really get to know the country. Like when you go to the countryside, or you go to the suburbs, and you drive an hour and a half outside of the big metropolitan area. What would you ever like try to go off the beaten path a little bit to see that
Yeah.
30,000 community public works department with 2 guys and 2 girls, and they're
Yes.
figuring it out and seeing what they're doing.
Yes. I definitely would like that. I mean, we were, Sydney was chosen first of all because of the waves,
Yeah.
But the other part is I didn't have to rent a car,
Yeah.
and I was able to do everything right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had access to a car, I definitely would like to do I mean, that is usually when we travel, that's what we do. We find the towns that are like kind of like the little town that's outside the big town, and it's generally what we do anyways. So yeah, I definitely would have done that for sure.
Did you see any kangaroos?
Yes, I did. When I was at the conference, we had I think it was a tour that we did.
Okay.
And on our way to the tour, they were just kind of like randomly in this field.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. I guess modern day 2025, I know you're outside of the public works side, think now, are there still some things that you've taken from that trip, whether it could be personal, like the way they operate just culturally, or then also like business wise, some things you might still be adopting to this day?
Yeah, one thing I did forget, they were really big, like I said, with the recycling and stuff. So recycling water, they had these big, huge tanks at a lot of their parks, and that's how they got water like to their toilets, so they had these huge tanks, and that was what they would use. And I'm sure they had like a septic system or something, for it, but and it was clean water, but it was rainwater, it was coming from like rainwater. So it was like these big rain barrels, I guess, that they would use for their water in their park, not for drinking, but for, toilet or whatever. So irrigation. So yeah, that was something that was kind of cool too. That I don't really have not seen that here, but
you can't collect rainwater out here. It's illegal.
Yeah. For us, we have rain barrels that we can have like in our properties, and use it for irrigation.
Maybe it's Arizona.
So, yeah, maybe Florida is different. We get a lot of rain.
We don't.
Although you guys get your monsoon. So
yeah, but it's like 2 and that's it. And the rest of it's desert.
True.
Did you see any subdivisions out there?
No, because I was just more in the in Darwin.
Get off the surfboard, get with the program.
For the conference, it was up in Darwin, so that's on the North Coast. Beautiful. The weather was perfect there. So I did. One of the things I always like to do too is get a bike or something, so I can like bike around. And I did do that. I biked around Darwin, so that was cool and scary because they drive on the other side of the road, and I got confused at a roundabout, and I was like, that was a little bit of a scary experience. But just being able to see like parts of the town that I, that weren't right at the hotel or the conference center. So that was kind of neat. One thing I did get though as a personal takeaway is stress. I learned what stress was like. At the conference, I had zero stress. I was going to, and I'm not generally one that's on time. Like I'm usually like right on the dot, I'm not like early. And it's just something, it's because I always think I can do that one last thing before whatever. And then I end up, miscalculating my time. But so at this conference, I had nothing around, so I had no responsibilities. I just had to do that one presentation. So I was early to everything. I even had somebody say, wow, you're always early. And I was like, can I just get that on recording? So I was thinking, but so I had really like literally no stress. I get to Sydney, no stress. It was fun going, meeting, getting to the ferry, doing all these things and just meeting with the people that I had to meet with. But then there was the one time I forgot something in my apartment that I was staying in. And, obviously ferries have a schedule and they're always on time. I literally had to run back to my apartment and run and hope that I was going to make the ferry on time, because if I didn't, the next ferry wasn't for another half an hour and I would have been late to my meeting. So as soon as I experienced that, like, so I feel like I had a week and a half of zero stress. And then all of a sudden that stress that I put on my body from having to run back to the thing and come back, the apartment, come back to the ferry. That is when I realized what stress does to your body. Cause I was like, it really took a toll on me because I was really trying so hard to get back. And I did. I made the ferry. I mean, I sprinted. I was like, I am not
but just
missing
that
this
cloud
ferry.
of discontent, like, oh, am I
Yeah.
gonna make it? Like,
Yeah. And so it really, that really kind of changed how I do things. I can't say that it's always perfect because I'm still sometimes running, like right at the last minute, but it's something that I could recognize that stress that I put on my own self, for no reason. And if I was just early, I wouldn't have that stress. So I think that was a big personal takeaway for sure.
no, that's, I mean, for a lot of us, it's self-inflicted. We put that on stress on.
Self-inflicted. Yeah.
And you're right, like what it does to our body, and just compounding that over months, years of like always being late or always being behind or not having everything you need to be prepared to what you need to do. So,
but that's the thing, you don't realize it until you don't have it, and then all of a sudden it's there again. So that was my experience. Yeah, like I literally had zero stress when I was there until that one experience, and I was like, this is what I need to do. I need to be better with my time. I mean, some people argue that I haven't changed, and maybe that's true in most cases, but it is something I'm more aware of.
Gotcha. Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Elia, this has been great. Good chatting with you on it. What do you say to those who are on the fence about putting in the application for the Jennings Randolph Scholarship?
Yeah, I would say do it. Without a doubt, do it. The experience that you gain from going somewhere outside of your normal, life, and going, but not just going to a different town, but going completely to a different country where there's different cultures and different things, different operations, different ways of doing things. You just get so much out of that. And I mean, even if it's just a small harebrained idea, put it in. You just never know who your competition is when you're applying, and maybe you're the only one applying, and then you'll get it. Or maybe there is just a handful, and they issue it to a few people. So, yeah, I would definitely encourage anyone that's even remotely interested, just apply. You never know.
Sure. All right. Well, you heard it here from Elia. Go ahead and apply for that Jennings Randolph. Anything you want to shout out? You want to tell people what you're doing now and how they can support you?
Yeah, I'm still engaged with APWA, and was really engaged with the Leadership and Management Committee, and now I'm no longer on the committee because I've termed off. But I am trying to get on the international committee because I think that there's still more work that could be done, with international, and getting maybe some more relationships outside of the U.S. For collaboration purposes, even just for this, just learning from each other. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Elia, thanks for hopping on the podcast today. For all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. This has been the Public Works Podcast, and thank you everybody for tuning in.